It's great to have you all back on another episode of the Dream Lifestyle Podcast, where our mission is simple: to help you become the leader that your dream life requires. And I'm excited because I have one of my best friends in the entire world here on the show with me, who just happens to be an expert in concerning all things relationships, and not just romantic relationships, but all things just friendships, work relationships, work culture, and everything like that. Welcome back. He is no stranger to the Dream Lifestyle Podcast. Welcome back, Shaiyam Flavaney, everyone. Shaiyam, how you doing, sir?
I am doing excellent. Now, I think I might be breaking a record. Is this? I think this might be my third time.
Is this
the most a guest has ever come?
I think so. I think you've broken the record.
That's where I like to be. I like to change the world. So
absolutely,
I'm glad to be here again.
You do a great job of it, bro. And what I really appreciate is every time you come on the show, you bring a massive amount of value, and you've come up with a new principle concerning relationship building. And I'm so excited to dive into it because we just finished up a teaching series on the podcast where we've been talking about how to lead yourself to more influence, and we've been talking about building a reputation, for the first impression and everything like that. Yeah. And so I felt it only natural, it felt right to now kind of transfer to move towards the direction of, okay, how do we build relationships that are meaningful, connections that are genuine? Yes. And with your new framework, you've told it to me. I absolutely love it. I think it's amazing. And I think the world needs to hear about it. So we're really focusing here on this conversation, just this idea of how do adults make friends? I've heard it a lot. I'm certain you've heard it a lot just in your study and research. Talk with me about just your thought process towards why are adults finding it so hard to make friends?
I think it's in a world that feels ever more connected than before. It feels like we're so far apart. It's one of those weird things that's happening right now in this world. And I'm one of those people that especially needed the help. I've been doing all this research, and some people are like magnets. They connect to each other so easily. It's science. You get close enough to someone who you're similar to, and you're just going to connect. I'm more of a loose rubber band. You might have tied a couple knots around me, but and that's not how I wanted to live my life, because really I've realized through seasons of losing and gaining, you realize that the only thing that really matters is relationships. Your success is determined by your relationships. Your relationships are the things that make your life worth living. Like, again, you could have millions of dollars, but if you go home to a mansion by yourself, like, are you really successful? And I would contend that you're not. And so I wanted to figure out, what are the steps? What are some really simple pillars that people can follow to make themselves into these magnets, to connect deeply to one another in seamless ways? And I also realized in my research that connection is an organic thing. And so we don't know so much build connections, we grow connections. And the framework really is the fertilizer. It's a proper watering. It's the technique so that we make sure that we grow something that we actually can appreciate both its usefulness, but again, it's a mutually beneficial situation.
That's so good. I think what I wrote down what you said, that basically this framework, you want to help people become magnets, but then you also talked about how connection is organic and that we actually grow connection. We don't just work for them. And what I'm hearing, and just obviously in knowing the principle, but we're going to talk about it in a second, there's a lot of people who, they want to make friends as adults, but they don't have time. They don't have the energy, whatever it is. And they're like, okay, CJ, I hear you. That sounds great. I want to be a magnet. But it takes real work. And I think that's where your framework really comes into play. So do me a favor and just kind of give us a high level 30,000 foot overview of just what the framework is. And then let's break it down piece by piece.
See, my contention is a simple one. I think that in order to have connection, you're going to need proximity. You need to be in the same place. You need to be around people who have similar interests, they're going for similar passions in their life. So you got to be around the people who you want to be engaged with. People sometimes miss it. They're like, I have no friends, and then I spend all my time at my house. You can't, unless your friends are going to come to your house and just show up, unless you're going to be friends with UPS men and this is not how it's going to work. You're going to have to go out into a community, into a space that has people who have similar interests to you. The next step is relationship. Relationship for me really means investment. If you want to be someone's friend, So the people who start off the question by saying, "Hey, oh, this is too much work," you're already out of my system. You need to put in work. You need to invest your time, your interest, and your talent to make sure that you're around people who, because if you do this whole system, and this is where a lot of previous systems failed, they were trying to make these artificial connections, and they're weak bonds, and they're that rubber band. They're gonna fall apart. Um, so you need to invest in these relationships. The next one is education. This is where you develop common language, a common understanding, common shared beliefs with people. You go to their table and you have lunch and dinner with them. You help them raise their kids and they help you raise your kids. You learn about their experiences, where they've come from, and why they act the way that they act. And then that leads, if you do all those other things, to the strongest of all of these is empathy, where you deeply care for people. And when you deeply care for people, it changes everything. It means that I know who you are, I know why you are, and I know why you operate. And because of that, I'm going to treat you with care, love, appreciation, um, and I'm going to value for who you are. So this is not a system to just like quick bake, fake friends. It's not that. These are some real practical steps that if you live your life this way and you gear yourself towards people who also are doing these kind of similar things, you will find the kind of relationships and connections that will last your whole life.
That is, I love this because again, we hear it a lot about how there are a lot of people our age and even younger who struggle with having genuine relationships where
Yeah.
they can know a lot of people, but where they actually have that connection, like you were talking about, where they really are magnets that stay versus like the loose rubber band that falls apart. So I want to start with proximity because I
Yes.
think this is a really interesting thing because to your point, we're in a world now where we are, connecting on Zoom, where people are working from
Yeah.
home and, all these different types of things where we are connected, but not quite. And also I'm hearing just even in your explanation of proximity, there's a level of vision necessary. How does someone really key in? How does someone improve on, okay, proximity? What does that look like?
So think about it being on a school bus or, or any bus. You're in the same space with those people. That doesn't mean you have proximity. It's more than being in the same place. It's more than sharing the same office. Proximity isn't intentional, like you said. It requires you to have a vision for a future context of this relationship, whether this is in a corporate setting or this is in a personal setting. You gotta be in places with people who are doing or have the same goals as you. And you could quickly suss that out. You start to have conversations when you get into places. And you also make sure you're putting yourself in places where you would find people with similar interests. So if you love hockey, go to a game. Like I know sometimes we make things really difficult, but if you love the Lord, go to church. You're gonna find your people with your similar interests doing similar things to you. You know why? Because they think similarly to you. And so when you find yourself in these places with these people, then you can start talking about, okay, where they want to go, how they want to live, their dreams, their aspirations. And again, don't be weird. Like this is not like I want you to be my friend, and here are all the things that I think we have in common. No, this part is, again, this is a grown relationship. This is not astroturf. This is not. Um, Again, there's other models where it's trying to get you to essentially, I shudder to speak this way, but manipulate another person into a relationship with you. This is not that. This is deciding that, okay, I'm going to put myself with people and places that have similar interests to me and who have a similar future that I want, and then doing the work that comes later, which is relationship with these people.
That's good. One of the things that you said that I wrote down is that in order for us to truly do this proximity step, is that we have to have vision for a future context of the relationship. I think that is really good because it just speaks to intentionality, where
Yeah.
it's I'm interacting with this person because I see a very positive future beneficial for them and me based
And yeah.
on what you're talking about, the similar interests, similar beliefs, similar core values, and everything like that. But even as I'm hearing you say, I could hear someone listening to you talk about proximity and talk about, okay, space is not proximity, that it does require, this vision that we talked about. What would you say to the person who's like, well, yeah, CJ, but I don't have the time, I don't have the energy to go these places. Like my life is busy. Like, what would you say to that person?
They lack vision. And I know that might be a rough response, but you can't both want a friend and don't want to be friendly. You, you need to be able to put yourself in a position for things to work out. If someone says they want to be a doctor and they say, I don't want to go to medical school, you're like, well, you will be out of luck. You need to put yourself in places for your vision to come to pass. And just a continuation of what you said, not just vision for a relationship with someone else, you have to have vision for your own life because you need to be able to decide, hey, you know what? I love politics. I'm going to go to the local Democratic club or Republican club. Oh man, I love skiing. I'm going to make sure I end up, I don't go skiing, wherever the local ski spot is going to be. I'm going to be there because I know that there are other people who are making the same decision as me. And it's very likely that they'll have similar ideals with me. And then, but you, at least you're putting yourself in that position to find out.
That's so good. And what that always makes me think of, at least as you're describing it, is like why it's important that, for those of us that are entrepreneurs and business owners and just ambitious leaders, that's why
Yeah,
we should go to conferences. That's why we should go to networking events and everything like that. Just because, of course, there's potential relationships for business and all that type of stuff, but at least as opposed to, doing the cold call thing and all that type of stuff, it's like the people here are here for similar interests. Like we're
absolutely.
cut from the same cloth. And so I think that is where, again, just a practical step. Now, once we go from proximity and we step into relationship, how
Mhm.
does that work? Because you said you describe relationship as investment. So what does that look like?
So investment is simple. It's your time, your talent, and your energy. So if you have a friend that you're not willing to invest your time, your money, or whatever special talent that you've been given in your life, then you probably don't want to be friends with them. Friends cost you something. And then again, the benefit is that these are reciprocal relationships where you will get something from it. But it is a sense that you are going to spend effort to connect with someone. Um, I remember we were still developing our relationship. I was fortunate enough to be one of the select few to go to your wedding. It cost money. I had to buy gas, hotel room, all these things. But guess what? To support my friend, it's nothing. But sometimes we want to have these transactional relationships. What I say is that proximity without relationship is surveillance. There's some people who are going to be in your life who are just there to just see what's going on. Maybe you have a little bit of motion, you have a little, sway in whatever you're doing. Those kind of people are just hangers on. We want to take the next step and say that, hey, I'm gonna put up what I'm talking about. I'm gonna invest in this kind of relationship because when I invest, it brings us closer together. And it also gives you an opportunity to see how they respond to that investment. And oftentimes, when you are actually heading towards this really kind of deep connection, you'll see the reciprocal investment. If I have anything, you show up for me. And it's not like oh please, it's not a begging. We have a reciprocal relationship where we benefit each other because we care about the same things. We put ourselves in the similar places, and we do what we're called to. So yes, it has to be more.
So many thoughts with everything you dropped. A whole lot of information. I want to peel some layers back for a second. You said that friendship costs you something.
Mhm.
And I think that's true. And it's one of those things, especially for those of us younger adults, right? Transitioning to real adulthood. We don't want to accept that. And I think
Mhm.
that causes a lot of people to um, almost be afraid of like, they don't want to make real investment into these
Yeah.
types of relationships where they kind of dibble and dabble, or they're like, I'll wait for, like, I call it the Cold War of friendship, where it's like, I'm waiting for you to invest. Well, I'm waiting for you to invest. Well, I'm waiting for
Yeah.
you to invite me out to dinner. Well, I'm waiting for you. Like, speak to that person where they kind of have a lot of filters, a lot of steps that a person has to pass before they even are willing to make the first step of investment of their time, money, or talent. Speak to that person.
Um, I think the healthiest way to look at it is like a fence around your property. Boundaries are good. Not everyone should be allowed into your personal space, into your ideas, into your thoughts. That's not for everybody. Pre is not about getting 10,000 friends. It's about getting a few people who are close. And we can go biblical, we can go so many examples of why that's important to just have a close inner circle. This is not everybody. Once we get past that boundary, um, Sometimes people will build brick walls around themselves with no entrance point. And then they sit inside saying, wow, it's lonely. Love, relationship, connection requires risk. But any good investment requires risk. And you say, man, if I invest this $10,000, this investment over 10 years is going to pay me 100,000. But it's a risk that you might lose the 10,000 in the first place. And you have to be willing to take that step. Just with proximity, you got to get out your house. Relationship means, yeah, you got to be able to put some stuff into somebody and be willing to lose it. But what I find most often is what you see when you give yourself fully to people who also have kind of healthy boundaries. They got a fence and it has a gate in it. You can come in, but as soon as I realize that you're a danger or you're really not here for me or you're just, here for surveillance or all those other things, kindly, it's time for you to leave.
Right.
So it's about having healthy boundaries. And then it's also about realizing that anything that is worth it in this life will take a risk. Um, but like you said, people, especially our age, we want to tiptoe. Oh, will he call me? I didn't hear from him for.
Yeah. And it's
We
like,
all say we don't
you
have
want to talk
time,
to him. Like,
but you're not talking to them. We all say, oh man, I have no time for any of this, but then we play games constantly. Same thing when you're trying to develop a romantic relationship. Should I text him back? Should I? If you want to, if you want to invest, and if it doesn't work, move on. Like we put too much stock into that thought that we might lose, but not in the benefit of what happens when we win.
yeah, that's so good. And what I can tell everyone who's listening, like from real experience, when I like got rid of that thought process when I was dating my wife now, like I was like, I want to text her. So I'm texting her. Like
Yeah,
I want to call. I'm a call. Like just kind of like not doing this cat and mouse game of like, well, I gotta wait till she texts me and like, and to a degree, to your point about like having those boundaries, at least even in the context of a regular relationship, romantic,
yeah,
it helps. But for the most part, it's like, I want to talk to this person. I lose absolutely nothing by sending them a text. Like,
yeah,
or, or even
absolutely.
now today with a voice message. Like you just lose nothing by that small act of investment. And I think one of the things that you said earlier that I want to go deeper on, because you mentioned healthy boundaries. You mentioned proximity without relationship is surveillance.
Yeah,
I think that is so profound because I think there are a lot of people who would even be trying to convince themselves that they
yeah.
have good connections with people when they're really being surveilled. But there's also people who, they are surveilling people and they think that they're actually, in relationship with them. And so how should we set up these type of boundaries? Now, really generalize it because
Yeah,
obviously every relationship is different and all that type of stuff. But what are some like easy to point out, easy to see,
yeah.
boundaries that are healthy that we can have so we can actually put the right investment into these relationships?
It starts with the understanding of yourself, of what you allow, those kind of moral boundaries. So if someone's already affronting who you are as a person, then we don't need to go any further. And then once we feel okay, like they have a similar moral understanding as me, they have similar passions as me, they're in a similar place as me. You're like, okay, this is all making sense to me. They have a similar vision for their future. Then you start making investments. Let's go to dinner. Oh wait, when the bill comes, I'm the one that pays. Always. Okay, it's been 4 or 5 times. It's really just paying attention, honestly. You allow people in, and then you show them, you allow them to show who they are. And a lot of times people will do this, that they will show you who they are, but you have to be paying attention. And then there's also kind of a honeymoon period in any relationship. I work with kids. Even when a new kid comes into my school, there's a honeymoon period where they're not acting who they really are. And so sometimes this will just be, okay, it's been about 5 months. I call them every time. They answer, but they don't really engage me in the things that are going on in their life. And in those moments, you know what you do? Man, this has been great. I love you. I love you more than, love itself. And then you continue on your life. Because not every person you invest in will actually benefit you. And it's the same way around. I'm sure there's people in my life who are like, man, I would love if he called me more. And I don't. And they should take that as a sign, as that, this is not the kind of relationship that they should invest in either. because it's all about reciprocity in relationships, all about connection. So yeah, healthy boundaries mean a healthy boundary in the first place, based on your morals, and then also just taking enough time to be patient enough. Like you don't get to the inner circle. You don't know the secret, desires of my heart until you've been proven to be a safe person who can handle that. I can tell you a secret and realize, oh, now it doesn't go to six different people. Oh, so we're good. They're sharing things with me, and I'm not sharing it because I have that same boundary. It's all about just investigation. A lot of people call dating data collection. It's the same thing. When you are meeting a new person who you don't know at all, have no family connection at all, spend some time just like very low stakes. We go to dinner, we have a good time. Who calls who? We're investing in each other. I'm gonna call you when I want to call you because I care about you. I want to invest in this relationship. And if I feel that same energy coming back, then we're like, okay, now we're starting to really vibe and we're starting to have some momentum here.
Speak to the importance of being honest in this process, because when you were just talking, it made me think about someone who is in a dating relationship, that data collection
Yeah.
that you just mentioned, and they're doing the who's going to text first after the date, and person A texts person B, and person B wants to say, man, I was just about to call you, but they chose not to as a way to like protect themselves. Speak to just how important just like kind of being honest, and obviously that kind of goes back to what you're talking about with risk, but
Yeah,
speak to how important honesty is to developing these types of relationships and investments.
it's paramount. Why would you want to be in a relationship where you don't get to be fully yourself? Now, we can all do it. We can put the mask on, we can do this, look, a week, a month. I even give some really good actors maybe 3 years. But eventually you're going to be you again. And you're going to want to know that the person loves you because you are who you are, not because of this persona that you've created. The same thing happens with relationships. The same thing happens when you're trying to do business deals. Be yourself. Have very clear expectations about what you need from people. And again, allow them to have the same with you. All this is reciprocal. None of this is just one way. This is a two-way street that we're on. Yeah. Who wants to be fake for 5, 10, 15 years? I'm ashy. I smell. What my breath smells when I get up. Be honest.
Yeah.
Let them love you for who you are, not for a person that you're not.
I think that speaks to why this framework that you created is not just for surface level relationships.
Yeah.
This is for when you're trying to establish your inner circle. This is for when you're trying to really bring people of value into your world to elevate your life. And so I love how you just frame that in the sense of like, hey, why be in a relationship where you can't fully be yourself? Like, and again, there's the boundaries even in that. Like, just because you go to work, that doesn't mean that they need to know, necessarily what you do at home. But it is all
Yeah.
contextual. But it is, hey, bring your full self to the relationship, to how you invest. And I really appreciate that because, again, I think relationship, as I'm thinking through and hearing you describe, I think this might be where a lot of young adults struggle in actually having real relationships, because I even think about how, seasons change. Like I think about
Yeah.
myself, right? I'm a father now. I'm a husband. So me kicking it with my friends and, have like really
Yeah.
going out, all that type of stuff, connecting with them, it looks a lot different. And it's not because I'm not invested in the relationship. It's not because I don't care. It's literally just because, hey, I have a 4-month-old at home and
Yeah.
I'm tired. So speak to that person where just the dynamic of kind of recognizing the season that they're in, recognizing the position that we're in. And I don't know if that goes into education or not, but talk me through that. How does that fit in? I'm sorry to interrupt the conversation, but I wanted to take a moment to let you know and personally invite you to this year's Dreamer Symposium. On December 5th and 6th, we're hosting a leadership conference for you to create vision for the new year and grow in your self-leadership. So whether you're looking to climb the corporate ladder, whether you're building a business, or you're growing a ministry, it is important that in order for you to succeed, that you have vision and you lead yourself well, which is why this year's theme is resilient leadership, because it's not about what's happening to you, but it's about what you can make happen in your world. And you need to know that you are built to overcome. And in these 2 days, you're going to learn how, because resilience will be necessary. Because for you to build the life that you dream of, you're going to need to overcome some things. And so I would look forward to seeing you there on December 5th and 6th in Jackson, New Jersey for the Dreamer Symposium. Now let's get back to the episode.
That's actually the perfect transition to education. This is the bread and potatoes. This is the meat and potatoes of free. So many times in this world, the difference between our understanding and the choices in our actions is just how well we speak the same language. I look at the modern political climate. Uh, I study politics. I actually love politics, which is a weird thing to say in this context. But it's all about how people connect to each other. And when you study, you realize that people's positions aren't actually that dissimilar from one another. But what you learn is that it doesn't benefit people to know that they have these connections. And so education takes the next step. It's, I know you, and I know that you have a good heart. I know you care about me. I also know that your life is different right now. And so certain things that we used to be able to, have a conversation about, we don't. There has to be maturity in this as well. When you know somebody's in a different stage of life, as a friend, you need to make sure that you respond to it. That's why we need to be deeply invested with relationships. And then from that investment, we spend time to get to know each other. There's going to be certain things that I say and do, certain times where I'm going to be a listener, and this conversation is going to be all about you, but I know that you're going through a hard situation because we share that information with each other. And so on hard days, I'll call you like, oh man. And I say, yeah, man. But there is boundaries of like, that's yours right now. Just know I support you. I'm praying for you. I love you. Education does all of that background information. Oh, you came from a single parent family, so what jokes about this kind of thing are just not going to fly. Oh man, you're conservative. You're a pastor. There's going to be certain things that I say to you, and that doesn't mean that we're changing who we are, but it's just being strong enough and mature enough to use the information that we have to treat people better. Again, that then goes into our thoughts about empathy. So yes, you need to know your people. And then if you're deeply connected with people, you've been investing in this relationship, you're going to know what's happening in their life so that you can help them respond. Because that's one of the benefits of friendship. I don't know what it is like to raise a baby, but I know that you're doing really well and I'm proud of you. That's friendship. But that requires us to know each other. Again, this is, I think, millennials struggle with this. We've been presented images of each other, of the best days of everyone's lives from when we were very young. Man, if you would look on social media, everybody's really well off. Nobody's struggling. Nobody has any debt. But this is why we have to be connected deeply with people, because that's all lies. That person that you're like, man, how did they put $10,000 on a credit card that they won't be able to pay back? Their credit's messed up. But we see that, and because we don't actually know them, we're not educated about who they are as a person. We see them smiling, and we want that. And then there's a person who we don't see on social media, or we do, and they're just with their family and they're having a good time, and they are actually healthy, and they are actually wealthy, and they're actually doing things, and we know that because we're connected with them. When we learn about people, that allows us to go to the next step of deeply caring about them. We have so many surface level connections that don't mean anything, and we really have to refocus our lives.
Man, I want to go back even before we get to empathy, because you said something really key. Well, two things really. You said in the education space that we have to respond to their stage in life. And then you also said we have to use that information to treat them better. I think that is like so just breathtaking. And I use that word intentionally because it's simple, but there also is like a level of grace. And even as I'm hearing you explain education, it's like in the same way you talked about, in order for us to make the proper investments on the relationship stage of things, on the education side, it sounds like we have to become aware of them. Like we have to become them aware. So, like for a relationship, we become self aware, but for education, we become them aware. Speak with me about just how a person goes about properly using this information to treat them better. Because I know a lot of millennials, Gen Zs, and even younger Gen Alpha, they can get this type of education on another person's, life stage, situation, whatever the case is, but they don't quite use it to treat them better. They use it kind of as like uh, the last nail in the coffin. It's kind of like,
Yeah.
oh, I just found that out. So no, I'm definitely not making any more investments. Speak to just what's the proper lens in which we should be looking at as we should be educating ourselves so that way we use the information to treat them better.
I want to use our example. I think it's a great one. I think you are an excellent father. I am so proud of you. I'm older than you, but we're brothers, and there's just a sense that you are taking such responsibility for your life and all the things going on in it. And you know how I treat you better? It's I don't have the same expectations of someone who has more time because I know you're busy. And so, and it's even in the little things. I wanted to talk to you yesterday, and just beforehand, I said, "Hey, text me, call me when you're free." There might be a portion of our lives where it would have been just pick up the phone because what is he doing? Like
Right.
what is he doing? He's
Yeah.
just hanging out. But now, okay, you're about to be a pastor. You have a family. I don't have an expectation to draw on your time in the same way that I did, and by doing so, I'm caring for you.
That's good.
It's being able to be close enough to someone's situation to know when you need to. Sometimes it's to take a step back. Know that we're still friends, but it might not look the same way. And in doing so, you give people grace and a freedom to be themselves. Um, and there might be a time where you're like, you know what? All my friends are dads. I will be one day, but all my friends are dads right now because that's just where I am. And you know what I do when you have grace? Man, that makes a lot of sense. I'm proud of you. A lot of us have investment, a lot of us have proximity with people, but we really don't know them. Like this is one of the ones that actually makes me a little bit sad. Because to be well known is to be loved. To take the investment to know you write great books, I read your books because there's an insight to you that it's worth. Again, our investment is just not our money, but it's our effort. So I have conversations with you about what's going on in your life, and you ask me the same questions. How many once a week you call me like, man, I just wanted to make sure I talked to you this week.
Facts.
You're investing. And by doing so, you know where I am generally to make sure that you're good, I'm good, we're good. That takes time, that takes effort, investment. And by doing that, you get to know me well enough to know my moods, the things that are going on in my life. This is really important for relationships and building new relationships, especially dating relationships. But it's undervalued in friendship relationships. You expect somebody to be a constant. I give the example of sometimes uh, I run a local preschool and I'll run into people who I went to high school with. And in my mind, before they walk in the door, they are the high school version of themselves that I knew, but they're never that because they have lived life. They have changed, had experience. In my context, have had children, sometimes many. They're different. And so what I've learned to do is to not in those situations is people have people grow, people are not who you used to know. And you really get the benefit of seeing someone's life and the beautiful arc that it takes if you are patient, have a lot of grace for them, and are willing to learn about how they will respond in different stages.
Mm. You said something that I want to pull out for a second. How we expect people to be a constant. And even in, as you think about, as people's life stage changes, whether it's, they have to take an overnight shift at their job, or, they become a parent, or they get married, they're dating someone seriously, like whatever, all these things, right? as you said that, it made me think about how I think this is the step where a lot of relationships break. And the reason why I say that, because someone else is growing. And as you see people growing and ascending and doing whatever it is according to the
Yeah,
vision, it almost can become a spotlight on maybe what you're not doing. It can
yeah,
become a spotlight potentially on, how far you're not you thought you should be and but you're not. And so it's like, to your point, that's why I wrote down, we expect people to be a constant, where it's, no, you're leaving me, and where's my person, my handicap, my crutch, or just my, yeah, that constant person. Now I'm like forced to be by myself, and I don't like being by myself. And that's like, as you were saying that, that was coming to mind. I was like, wow, that's really deep.
yeah,
But I also think it's real, and that's why we're having this conversation.
yeah. My niece just went for college. I'm so proud of her. And I told her she's so concerned about her friends. And again, they've been great people, lovely girls. They've supported each other, grown with each other. But I'm like, I know you're really concerned about them right now, but in a year, 2 years, absolutely 3 years, these same people who you were deeply connected to, you're gonna lose. Not all of them, but some of them. And why does that happen? Because you can have proximity with someone. You be in class, you're smiling in their face every single day. You develop relations, you invest in them, you're sitting at lunch table with them, you're hanging out with them, you work at the same place. Because of this, you kind of go to that next level. You know each other well, you're connected well, your families know each other well, you have all that education about where they're coming and where they're going, and then realize that you lose contact with them. Why does that happen? Because again, it requires a level of vision to have a long-term friendship that a regular friendship doesn't. It says that even though we're not in the same space anymore, so essentially you're losing proximity, and that's usually why it breaks down. That's the short answer. But it requires an intentional level that even though I don't see you every single day now, I I still kind of make those intentional attempts to connect with people. And that's why you'll have people who have, they'll have 50 friends in high school and they have nobody when they kind of transition into the next space because you're not in the same space with them. Literally, your connection was that you were in the same space. And that's why how we started, that's actually not real long-term deep connection. You were just in the same place.
That's so good.
And that's okay. And that's okay. Because it leaves space for you, whoever's in that next part of your life. But there will people who are connected for that deeper, longer term, um, like your whole life, essentially. People.
That's so good. Now let's turn the corner and really hit this empathy piece, because that, I think, even in based on how you've kind of touched on it throughout our conversation, that's kind of like the gel between all of it, right? That
Yeah.
actually caring for people. Just break down the overall piece of empathy and go from there. I'm excited to hear this.
Empathy is love. Empathy is is deep connection. When I first was creating this framework, I wanted to realize I wanted to help people realize the importance of relationships and how it will help you determine your actions in a different way. And I even envision people who come from different backgrounds and different unique origin stories could find connection using this kind of strategy. And this is the point: is to realize that we are not so different. Is to realize that we are actually connected, and that the things that divide us are artificial. They're intentional and oftentimes malicious. But we are actually, this is where we see our humanity on full display, where we are actually, we love people. Like it's an exciting concept to me, but it's that simple.
I like that. I think what you're making me think of is simply why we have to keep our hearts in a good place concerning people, and that's where at least in the work that I do, which you know of in terms of like self leadership and
Yeah,
discipline, uh, we really have to check our beliefs surrounding people, because that does inform how we execute a pre. Right, it does
yeah,
inform how we execute. Going to a networking event, it informs all that. And I think, again, using empathy is what allows us to truly just say, hey, I may be 10 steps ahead, I may be 10 steps behind, I might be right in line with you, But because I have empathy, because my heart's in a good place and I genuinely just care about you outside of my own benefits, I can either sit in the stuff with you, I can, just care for you, I can meet the need that you may have just the best I can. Um, in terms of having a good heart, speak to the person who hears a point like this and they've had a lot of negative experiences with relationships. They've tried proximity, it didn't work. They've tried, investing in relationship and it didn't work. They've tried educating themselves and it hasn't worked. And they just kind of have like these traumas, these negative experiences concerning friendships, and they find it difficult to access empathy. What do you say to that person?
Try again. I, I think relationships really do feel so complicated, and it feels like we're all playing different games with different rules. Um, you will have interactions that fail. In fact, the majority of them will. You'll have interactions that go really well for a long time and then will fail. I'm not saying that those things are not disappointing, but I'm saying the value you get from when it does work is worth all of the heartache of all the ones that didn't. Your lovely wife is an awesome person. If you told yourself after the last whatever that you were going to stop, you would have missed out on her. It's worth it. It's worth the heartbreak. It's worth the crying. It's worth the feelings of loneliness and despair. But all of those things give way once we deeply connect with someone. In fact, I'm putting together my book right now, and it's going to be called Deeply Connected. I was the kid who I would get birthday invitations to people's houses, and I would actually hide the invitation because I know if my mom see it, she would have made me go. And because connection felt scary. So this is why it's so funny to me that this has been the thing that I've been looking into because I am fundamentally not good at it. And I wanted to create a way where there was very clear steps. And again, these things don't we can't think of it as like we're making a scientific formula because again, things will fall apart at different parts. And that's all information that we need to grab hold to and learn from for the next experience. It's like this is why I surround myself with plants because it's organic. They will grow if I put in effort, time, resources. They all have very nice fertilizer. Um, and guess what still happens, even with the best of intentions, and with doing this for 5 or 6 years, some die. What we do is we'll have one experience, one plant will die, and then we say we don't have a green thumb. Everything I touch dies, and you won't try again. But guess what you don't get to benefit from realizing that it all won't work out, but some will. Uh, I think we need everything to work out in our favor. Honestly, we can get through an amazing life with two or three working really well, where we have two or three people, be that a relationship partner, a business partner, uh, any kind of partner or connection that you want to establish. That would be a beautiful life. It really would be. So yeah, I wish I had more like boohoo's. I'm sorry. I am sorry it happened. I'm sorry it didn't work, but you need to just keep going. It's just a part of life.
So good. I like how you said that relationships feel really complicated, but this idea of empathy, this idea of trying again, really just simplifies it. It really does just simplify it and saying like, okay, hey, the one relationship didn't work out how you expected, whether, it was to your detriment or it was rough, whatever the case is, dust yourself off, try again. Just because to your point, it does pay off. It's worth it, especially when you think about, you just need a couple of good relationships that can totally change your life. I appreciate this, man. And so just kind of as a recap with all of this entire framework that you've given people it's proximity, it's relationship, it's education, and it's empathy. I think, man, this is so good. And you mentioned the book, and I look forward to picking up my copy, signed, of
Yeah.
course. But talk with me a little bit about just how that book writing process has been to give us kind of like insight. When's it coming out? What's the plan?
It's in the works right now. Let me tell you, it's really been a labor of love. I've unpacked so much of my own life and experience in it, and again, sometimes you need the hindsight to look back and say, man, I have lived a beautiful life. I've had so many experiences, many of them that were hard, but those are the ones that taught me so much about who I am and who I can be. So I'm excited to kind of share just not this principle, but how I've lived it out in my own life and how it's made a deep impact on the quality and the kind of friendships and relationships and connections that I do have now.
Awesome. I love it. Now, you also, just before we get out of here, you also will be joining us at this year's Dreamer Symposium. So go ahead, talk to people about just kind of your experience. Why should they go? Why should they get their ticket and everything like that?
Um, in life, we need to have these points where we can look back between periods of time. Go with me. I don't know if it's really important to have these check marks and these checkpoints in our life where we say, man, I am not where I used to be anymore. And I have a vision for where I'm gonna be. Um, Sometimes if your goals are too just nebulous, you don't really get to see how you've grown. And then you sometimes will start to develop this sense of I'm not growing, I'm not changing, but you are. For me, the symposium is that checkpoint. It happens every single year around the same point where I can look back at my year and say, okay, this is what I did great. This is what I need to improve. Man, this relationship is so much deeper than this other one used to be. Wow, God is good. This is good. I'm working towards my things. And okay, I know this is going to come back around again, so I'm going to look forward. I'm going to say by this time next year, I'm going to accomplish these goals. And the Dreamer Symposium is that place where people who are like-minded come, we meet, we spend the day with together, we're sharing conversations, and we're all growing, and we're all doing that kind of like, okay, yeah, you were here last year, now you're here. You had 0 clients, and now you have 10 clients. Like what? What happened this year? This is why you need to be around like-minded people. In honesty, I really think that the Dreamer Symposium is like the the in-person pre. It's this opportunity to get around people who are like you, develop relationships with people who have similar interests, invest in them as they invest in you, leave with some business cards, leave with some phone numbers. You learn about people and you just become like, just lovers of these people who are great people who are all kind of going for it full steam with the best of intentions and with the best hearts. So you got to go to the Dreamer Symposium.
Awesome. Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate it. Well, listen, for all of you that are listening, you can actually use Shaiyam's discount code right now. So that way you can get your ticket. All right. All you have to do is go to dreamersymposium.com, pick which experience you'd like, whether it's a gold ticket or it's a VIP. Both are a premium experience. But you can use the code Shaiyam. That's SHAIYAM. Go ahead and get your discounted ticket to that conference right now. Lock it in. Don't wait. But sir, how can people connect with you? Where can they find you? Where can they join your email list? Just where can people connect with you?
Shaiyam.com. And on all social media, I'm either Shaiyam or Shaiyam Flavaney. So you can just search me there.
Awesome, man. Well, listen, I appreciate you. For everyone who's listening or watching me on YouTube, I appreciate you. And I only have one favor to ask of you. If this conversation provided you value, I'm just going to ask you to send it to someone that you know, trust, and believe in. All right. I appreciate you. Keep building. Till next time. And always remember, your dream is possible as long as you're willing to grow for it.